Hello everyone! In this session, I'm going to be reviewing in the ITGC section how to document a good system change log review. And so for those familiar with change management, oftentimes what we need to do is look at to see what changes have happened to the database or to an ERP system. And so that's the change log. So I'm going to walk you through how to do that review and save documentation. I'm going to take a look at it from the doer's perspective, the IT person having to do this, and what's a good example of evidence to save. And the first step is write down what you're doing to do this review. And so here's an example from one of our clients who's a great documentation. So first they wrote down just a bullet point in a Word document that said they extracted the unfiltered list of AX change logs by running a query on the database. And then they created a new tab to show what the query results are. And then they created another tab by copying it into, so it's two tabs. Let me show you what that does. The first part is to show you, here's the query. To save this evidence, what this IT person did really well was they actually saved the query. Here's what the query they wrote. And you notice here that they've identified and saved a copy of the scripts to run to get the report, including the fields that they're pulling from, such as the create date and time right here, and the modify date and time. So the min and max, these are the values that they were doing. And they also identified the date ranges in the script because, of course, when you're reviewing for changes to your system, we want to know that you were reviewing it from January 1st, 2017 to March 31st. So that helps us know the report that's going to pull out of it is the right date range. In this case, we're doing here, you can see the change query settings for the date ranges, the various fields that we need. This is a good example of evidence. Then you're going to see, this is the extraction. Remember, the IT person said, I extracted this and I saved it into Excel. So this is what it looks like, and what they've also done in the tab below is they've named this to say, what is this content? And in this case, this file was very big, and we actually cut a bunch of things just so that you have an idea of when it comes out of the system, what does it look like? So this is really important. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is the person then added some additional fields so that they could actually do this review. So the fields that they added was the ticket ID field, and they mapped it to a help desk ticket. And they also added the field for ticket description. And so here you can see the date range for the period that we're reviewing. You can see who made the change in the system under the field called modify. So here's some initials, some names of people who did the system admin, whoever made that modification. That's good so that when we do our audit, we know who is it that we're looking for. And so then then the ticketing system, the goal of this is that for every change that was made to the system, it corresponds to a ticket ID, and then having the ticket description is helpful so that we can say, oh, ticket number 666 is to adjust the roles in the AX. Ticket 657 was the ledger grouping mandatory condition for expense reports. So these were the ticket descriptions that help us understand. And for every change, as I mentioned, we should have a ticket. Where the completeness of it is if you have a change and you don't have a ticket to go with it, that's where you start to research to say, could an unauthorized change been made to our system? And that's why we need to do the change log review, is to make sure that all system changes were properly authorized and documented. And then finally, you're going to see here the rest of the steps that were done. So this IT person did a great job. They said they mapped all the events associated with the changes by taking the following approach. So they looked at the code deployments. They also, based on the timestamp that they observed, I searched for relevant deployment file emails, successfully identified the change ID, and finally, they've also done a conclusion. Overall, I was successfully able to complete my review. Again, this is a really good example of documentation to say what changes have been made to your system database, to the root database, and how do we know that everything's been accounted for. I hope this was helpful. This is really skipping through because I'm sure for the IT person doing it, it took a long time, but now you know what a good documentation example looks like. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next training session.